Hi, so I am Kate and I'm going to be walking you through how to set up your Airtable powered BBYO or really anything else elections app, but I did make this for BBYO, so it's going to be a lot of BBYO terms. This is an iOS only app, so you're going to want to make sure that everyone who is voting has at least access to an iOS device, whether that be an iPhone, iPad, iPod, Touch, something that can run an iOS app. So to get started, we are going to be in Airtable. You're going to have to set up a base. And first, I would recommend setting up an entire workspace so that you can keep this separate from any other projects that you might have. So that is what I'm going to be showing you right here. So what I'm doing here is just duplicating the base that I had made already because it has all the correct terminology and everything spelled exactly right, but I'm not going to send along the records with it so that I can just populate it with my own records, which is basically just a row in your base. So I'm going here to my untitled base copy, and you can see that there are three tables, and there's positions, candidates, and voting. And positions and candidates are going to be the tables that you fill out yourself, and then voting is going to be what the app does. So that's going to populate with data that is sent from people's votes. So everything has to be spelled exactly right. So positions capitalized in that should probably just be the first table, just like set it up the exact same way I have it here. And then you have position and candidates, and I'll show in a moment what all of the other tables look like. So candidates, you have those specific fields, and voting, you have the specific fields. Candidates, you have name, position, slide down 1, slide down 2, and then candidates and voting are both links to other records, and then position, slide down 1, slide down 2 are drop downs slash single select, and then name is a single line field or single line text. So what I'm doing here, I just sped this up, is I'm just populating these fields with names from friends, of course, and just filling that out with position slide downs if I wanted to. It was basically just random, and I kind of went down the line of positions. And of course, if you are doing AZA elections, you can customize these to be like Gadol and Sagan instead of Nasia and Siganit, and so on and so forth. And if you have other positions or they're in a different order, then you can always change that as well to fit your exact needs. But the titles of the fields are what is really important. So here I'm just showing the different types of fields. So you have single line text, you have the single select, and then you have link to another record, and those will like auto fill for themselves, but here I'm just showing how you set up the single select, so you can just change which positions you have in the order or whatever. There's that, and then you save that. Now I'm showing you the positions, and then that is where you will populate your list of candidates for each position. So you have your list of candidates themselves, and they're basically their own thing, their own entity within the computer system. But then you also have positions, and then each position has a set of candidates that are running for that position. So here I'm just filling them up with the positions that I've chosen to do, which is just like the standard BBG positions that we have in Baltimore, at least, and a lot of other regions as well. And I'm just populating that. I'm doing link to another record with the records that I created of the friends characters that I already went through and filled out in the other table. So now I'm going to show you how to actually incorporate this into an app. So you're going to click on the API documentation, and then you're going to find the ID of your base, and that's going to be important for later when you actually incorporate this. So I'm just showing you where mine is without showing it to you. I had to black it out, obviously. Yep, so that's how you find your API. And then another thing you're going to need is your API key. So you're going to click on your account, and again, I'm just blacking mine out for security, but it's going to be the thing that starts with key, and you are going to have to come back to this at a later point in this tutorial on how to do this. So then you're going to go to GitHub, and I have this linked down in the description, and you are going to find my Git repository called Election App Template, which is what I'm showing you in my profile right now. And you are probably going to want, well, you are going to want to make an account on GitHub so that you can do something later, but you don't have to just for right now. You can just click on the link that is below, and it will take you right to the election app template, and then you're going to want to download Xcode if you don't already have it. Now this can take a little while and it takes a little bit of room on your computer, so I would prepare for that. Don't try to do this like the morning that you're doing elections. There's a lot that goes into this, so make sure that you prepare this a few weeks probably ahead of time so that you're just ready to go in advance. And then you're going to go to this election app template. This is what it's going to look like when you happen upon the repository from the link below. And after you've downloaded Xcode, you're going to be able to bring all of this code that I've already written into your computer and customize your app based off of this code. So that is what I'm about to show you here in the tutorial when I get to it. Yeah, Xcode. So you're going to open up Xcode, and that's just loading up. And then here in Xcode on this main menu, you are going to click Clone an Existing Project, which is the third menu option. And this is how you're going to get things from GitHub into your code. So you're going to click the Clone or Download button, and then you're going to click the little thing that has an arrow going onto a clipboard. You're going to click that so that it copies the link to the repository. You're going to click Xcode, and then you're going to paste that link in and click Clone. I'm not going to do it here because I already have the source code on my computer, but that is how you will do that, and then it will automatically open the project for you. Then you want to make sure that you go into Finder. I don't know why it opens up on this always, but you're going to go into the folder where you saved it and make sure that you open the workspace, not the project. It's very important that you open the workspace and not the project. That is the white file, not the blue file, and it says .xc workspace. So that's what you want to open. Otherwise, this will not work properly with the fetching from the database. So that's what you will want to open when you open it up in Xcode. So you're going to double click that and open it if it did not already pop up. And the way that you will know if you are with the workspace when it automatically pops up from being cloned is that you'll have your project at the top, which has the name Election App Template, and then it will say pods at the bottom. And so that's how you'll know if you're in the workspace. If you're not in the workspace, it won't have pods at the bottom. So this is me just showing you the screen. This is what it will look like. You can, of course, customize this if you want. You can click on things in here and make the background a different color if you want, but this is the general layout of the app. If you have any experience with this, of course, feel free to change things around. This is on your machine, not mine, so have fun with it if you are into like designing stuff. I just made this as functional and base level as possible, just so that it was pretty much self-explanatory what each button did and what each thing was, and so that you knew who you were voting for when you're voting for or like what position you're currently voting on. So that's basically the screen. Yeah, so I don't really know what I'm showing right now, but I'm going to go into the other folders. I would recommend opening all of the folders that are controllers, models, and views because we're going to be working in those files. So here I'm showing you the positions. So you can customize this. This is just an array of strings, which is just like words, and you can add in extra positions, you can take out positions. If you don't have them, you can customize the names, you can change the order. All you have to do is just add, if you're adding something else, it's just add a comma and then the position that you want to add, the title of that position, you just put it in quotes. Just the way that this is set up. It's set up in BBG format. That's just because that's what I was originally intending this app for, was just my elections, and that's what came to my mind, and I thought that I would just leave it in there as an example of how you would set that up. So that is in the ballot view controller file. Then in View Controller, you can just, look around at the code if you're interested in that. Then in Network Manager, which is under the Models folder, this is where you're going to input that information that you got from Airtable. So there's a space for your API key, there's a space for your base ID, and there's going to be some other things that you input into the code. So when you go back to Airtable and find your API key and your base ID, then that is what you are going to input into the code. And basically everywhere where you have to actually input something into the code, there is a comment that is grayed out that tells you exactly what you need to do. So if you don't want to watch through this whole video again, I'm just putting in a random thing there to show you what it would kind of look like, where you're replacing your API key, and then your base ID is going to be something that says app, and then it's followed by a bunch of like numbers and letters and such. So now I'm just showing again where to find the base ID for the API and your Airtable. And this is where you're going to input that again. So that is where that will go in basically the URL. And it will start with app. I just put in a random words there. And then your API key also goes there at the bottom again. And basically what an API key actually is it is an authentication method so that the Airtable base that you want to access knows that it's you and it's your account and that you are authorized to get into that and edit things and change things and pull data from it. So I populated my example Airtable base with a bunch of TV characters to show how this app will actually work when you put it into practice. So when you download Xcode, it comes with a simulator, so you can simulate having an iOS device on your computer. You don't have to actually be able to download the app yet while you're testing it. So these are just the example values that I made, and I recommend doing this so that you can test out the app without actually having your actual candidate information in there. So I have set up my base properly with all of the values, and now I'm going into my code again, and I'm going to show you how to make the unique identifiers for each person, each voting delegate that is going to be using this app. I've also already set up my API key and the base ID that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to click this link that I've included here, which is random.org/strings, and I'm going to copy that and paste it into Google Chrome or whatever browser you use, and I'm going to set up my strings. So just count how many voting delegates you have, how many people are going to be using this app. That's how many that you put in the very first box. I chose to do the 10-character long string because I felt that that was secure without going overboard. And then I did numbers and lowercase letters, and I chose that each string should be unique, like raffle tickets not being able to be identical, because you don't want to have duplicates of strings if multiple people are using this. You want to be able to give each person a unique ID so that it doesn't look like someone's voting twice. Each person only gets one vote as they would. And then you just click on Get Strings, and it will give you all of your randomly generated ID codes so that you can input those into your code. So I'm going to copy those and then go back to my code and paste them in here under authIDs.swift, which is in the models folder, and I have an example one in there for you to use. And what's really cool in Xcode is that you can click, and then on a Mac you can click Control-Shift, and then you can hold that down and click at the start of each of these, and it will create multiple cursors for you, so you can type the exact same thing on the same line. So I'm going to write case, put a space, put an equal sign, and then another space, so that I can just set these up and do all the same things for each one at once instead of having to repeat that again. And now I'm just giving these all unique identifiers that don't really matter as much. This isn't the string ID. This is like human readable things like Nasia Siganit. You could do the people's names of who's voting, but I would recommend doing this just so that it's a little bit more secure and anonymous. Even though you could know whose ID it is, I would just say do that, and then if each chapter gets a vote or a few votes, then you could do chapter 1, chapter 2, etc., etc. You can do each board position and things like that. So I'm just filling those out with some different examples of things that you could put in there for the human readable side of the identifiers. And then each of these needs to be wrapped in quotes, double quote marks. So you can just double click on the ID and then shift and click the quote key, and that will automatically wrap it on both sides with quotations. And these are the actual IDs that you are going to send to each voting delegate before it is time for election, so that only they can access this and only they can cast a vote using their unique ID, which is just another layer of security and authentication for this app. So I have set up the entire app, I have filled in all of the needed information, I've put in my API key in both places it was needed, I've put in my base ID, I've added in my auth IDs, and I've customized all of the position names to how I needed them. I've made my entire Airtable base, and so now I'm ready to test out this app and make sure that it works, and so that's what I'm going to show you. So I talked about the simulator, this is what we're going to be using. I like to just set it up as just a generic iPhone. I chose the 11 Pro Max. The first time that you run this, it's going to take a little bit longer than subsequent times just because it has to set itself up, but the little play button in the top left-hand corner is what you're going to click, and then it's going to build, and there's a little loading bar on top where it says building election app template, something out of something number tasks. So once that gets to the end, it should set up your simulator. It will automatically pop up like it just did here on my dock, and then once it's actually ready to go, it will pop to the front of your screen so that you can see it. So don't mess around with anything on your computer while this is loading. It might take a while the first time. Don't worry, that is normal. Just wait for it to pop up by itself like it just did here and load up so that you don't mess anything up by clicking around too early. So now the app has loaded, yay! So this is where you are going to put in your auth ID when you actually get it. So I'm just going to copy and paste one of these that I have automatically generated. So for example, I would just paste that in there or type that in there, and that will automatically log you in. And I forgot that I did not customize my positions back to being BBG candidates like I had earlier, so that is a reason why we test things. So I'm just going back to ballot view controller and changing these back to how I wanted them to be for BBGs and the number of positions that I wanted. Just customizing those, and I'm going to hit play again, and this time it will probably load up a little bit faster. And then another thing that I wanted to show with this is that if you type the wrong ID, or if someone tried to get into this app without having an ID, then it would just say incorrect PIN. You wouldn't be allowed to get into the app. So you have to have the right ID. This creates another layer of authentication. So now I'm showing you how we're voting. So we're on Nicia, and you can see that there's 3 different candidates. And if I go to Chrome and to my Airtable base, you can see that those are the candidates that are in the Airtable base. So I'm going to switch to the voting thing so that you can see how it populates the data in the table. So once I click cast your vote, which I'm going to do right now, it will ask for, are you sure? And let's say maybe I accidentally clicked it, I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to click go back. I'm going to click go back. And let's say maybe I didn't want to pick Michael, I wanted to click Ross, but then I changed my mind back again, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with Michael, because obviously Jane needs him. So then I'm saying, yes, I'm sure, and that will load, and then it pops up automatically in your Airtable. So as people are voting, you'll be able to see the position that they're voting for, their voting ID, and the position, or the candidate that they chose, linked to the candidate table, which is really cool. So as you're going in here, you can share this with your staff member so that you two can go through this together, or whoever else is helping you facilitate elections and count votes. You can count the votes right in here and make sure that no voting ID is being used multiple times so that people are getting a fair vote. And then this is real-time data, so let's say you have more than like 2 candidates or no one reaches quorum, you can, here I'm just like populating my own data just to show you how it would look with another vote in there. So let's say no one reaches quorum and there's a runoff between 2 candidates or however many there are. Let's just say that only Michael and Ross got votes and Jane got none, which is very sad because she's a queen. And we go back into positions and candidates and we edit those tables so that she can no longer be voted for. And then you will instruct the voting delegates, or really everyone that's in your virtual elections session, to refresh their app so that they can see their new options for who to vote for. So I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second here. So here I'm just real-time updating and saying that you can no longer vote for Jane, so I'm just going to say nothing there, backspace that out, delete the record that I accidentally made, and I got a text. So yeah, now I'm going back to the simulator, and this is when you would tell the voting delegates to refresh their app so it will load, and now you only have the choice to choose between Michael and Ross, as I will show in just a second here. Yeah, right there. So now you're going to vote again. We'll go through another round. Let's say I vote for Ross this time. Cast your vote. Yes, I'm sure. And then that will pop up in voting, and you can delete the records before, or you can keep them and just kind of remember where you left off. So that will just show that I voted again. It will have my same voting ID and everything. And it will show that we're still on the Inicia election. So let's say that you find your winner, you count all the votes, you announce your winner, no motion, of course, and then you instruct everyone to move on to the next candidate. But let's say, for example, someone slides. So let's say that Ross wins, but Michael slid to Sigourney. So we're going to change that. Let's say that he had a slide to Sigourney, pre-declared, whatever. And we're going to change this so that in Sigourney, we add the Michael record from the other table and then go back to candidates and say that Michael is running for Sigourney now. And then we'll delete that slide because now it's onto the slide. So once you go back, then once you click next position, you're going to have the updated candidates for Sigourney. So now you have Joey and Michael. And then from there, again, you cast your votes. And you can see here now in the voting table that it says you're voting for Sigourney. It's the same app ID, or the user ID, voting ID, and the candidate that the user chose. So that is how the app works. It's very simple, and it works for pretty much every scenario that you can encounter. If you had like a white ballot vote and there was only one candidate, everyone can either just click on that candidate and vote, or you can just say white ballot, we're moving on to the next position, and it will update for that position. So that's how the app works. Now, how do we actually put this onto people's phones for elections? So we are going to use this thing called App Center from Microsoft, shockingly, because you get a free trial for 30 days. So don't set this up until it's like less than a month out until your election so that you are ready, but you don't have to pay because that would just be stupid. Why would you do that if they're giving you a free trial? So you're going to set up an account with App Center. I will have it linked below in the description of this video. You're going to click add new app just like I'm doing here, and let's say I just wanted to call this election app template. Did that wrong at first, and these are the settings. You can customize the name of it. I'm putting beta testing. The automatic thing is iOS Objective-C Swift, which is exactly what we have, so all you have to do is just create new app. So now you are going to click on the build on the side menu, and you are going to connect GitHub, which is what we were on at first. So this is when making a GitHub account in advance will come in handy, but you can just make it now. It takes about a moment to set up, and then you just say your email, and this is how you are going to set up your repository, which is basically just putting the code that you have edited up onto the web. Of course, private, but yeah, so I'm going to show you, let's say that I was making this for DC Council, so I'll just call it DC Council Elections or whatever, and I'll just take that out. So I'll just call it DC Council, whatever, but I'm going to make it private so that no one else can access it except for authenticated users. And I'm not going to initialize it with a README. I'm going to say none and none on Gitignore and add a license, and then click create repository. And then there's all of these instructions. We're going to follow the one that just has 2 lines. So if you've never worked in the terminal before, I know that this can be kind of daunting, so please reach out if you need any help with this, because I know that, like, for me, when I first started working in terminal, like, it was kind of scary because it's like, what is this scary thing? And mine looks like a hacker because I set it up with a black screen and green text, but I promise I'm not hacking. So you're going to navigate to the folder where you saved the project originally. So if you go into Finder, that will be helpful in finding it, of course. So you want to navigate to that folder, and I didn't really show this very well in the tutorial because I know exactly where mine is, but mine is like in my development folder, which is right off of my Kate Holushka main home folder. But if you click on the folder that you want, the main folder, the outside folder that contains this, so right in here where I'm showing, if you just pull that in, if you write CD and then just pull that, drag it into your terminal before you type anything the first time you open it, that will take you right to that folder, which is much more convenient than what I'm showing here. I don't really know why I did it this way. I guess this is just the way that I'm used to. So yeah, if you type ls after anything, it will show you the list of everything that is in that folder. I don't know why I showed that. This is not that tutorial. You can literally just click and drag from the Finder that folder into your terminal after typing the letter CD, which means change directory, aka change folder. And then you are going to copy and paste these lines here into the terminal right here, this git remote add origin, and then it will have the URL for you automatically. That was what I had previously copied, so I didn't copy that. I'm not going to actually do this because I already have it up on my GitHub. But if I wanted to, I could. And then after you do that, click enter. Once it pops back up with the little percentage symbol or the $sign, whatever it will be there, different machines show it differently, then you will do the second line, which says git push-u origin master, and paste that into there and click enter again to follow that command. And then once you do both of those steps, when you click back here and click on code again, it will refresh and it will show all of the code that you just uploaded to GitHub. So this is when you will go back to App Center, connect with GitHub. I've already done that, so you can see all the repositories, and then this is the one that I would have just set up with the DZ console. I'd click that. It says no code because obviously, as you saw, I didn't put the code in there, but once you put the code in there, it will show the code. And then when you click on test, this is where you actually get to send it to people. And this is the part where I actually haven't done this yet, but this is where you need a 30-day free trial. So I wouldn't do this until you are less than 30 days out until your elections so that you don't run out of your free trial time. But this should walk you through how to set that up. And if you need any extra help, feel free to contact me. So I hope that this tutorial helped you a lot. I will have some information in the description, links that you can click on to get to the project, etc., etc. And if you need to contact me, my email's also down there, or some way of contacting me, so you can find that. Thank you for watching this tutorial and considering using this app.